a shapeshifter, what animal would I morph into? And don't say a rat. Hi everybody, my name's King Noosme. It's the holidays, so I asked you guys which Christmas episode I should make a video on. And you guys voted for the incredibly insane Creepshow Christmas special. I was secretly hoping this one would win because it's absolutely bananas and it's absolutely loaded in a ton of werewolf Easter eggs. So I'm like super excited to talk about this one. Most of you guys might know Creepshow from the movies that were released in 1982 and 1987. And then there's one that came out in 2006, but we don't really talk about that one very much. They paid homage to the classic horror comics from the 50s and 60s like Tales from the Crypt. But sadly, we're not going to be taking a look at the movies today. We're going to be taking a look at the 2019 TV series. In my personal opinion, it's one of the best ongoing horror anthology shows out right now, if we get a season 5. Across all 4 seasons, it has terrifying monsters, graphic gore, from Nazi-killing werewolves to evil flowers. This show really does have it all. Now, the show is slightly more gruesome than all the other shows I talk about, so I'll be blurring out anything that I don't think the YouTube gods would appreciate. But if you want the uncensored version, for some reason, you can find that on my Patreon. So grab your eggnog and gingerbread cookies and join me today as we talk about the insanity that is the Creepshow Holiday Special. We start the episode with the Creep, of course, as he soaks in some of that sweet, sweet moonlight and he transforms into his true self. Next, we move on to this really cool Creepshow comic cover. It shows a terrified Santa Claus in the eye of a werewolf, and I just personally really like this one a lot. Then we move past the comic pages that sadly don't have anything too interesting this time, and on to the episode's title card. It's really hard saying that without trying to sound like James A. Janice. It reads, Shapeshifters Anonymous. Happy horror days, my fiendish friends. This toothsome tale tracks Robert Weston's descent into a world of confusion. On a cold December night, his life is about to unravel in a web of teeth-gnashing, blood-spurting chaos. Jeez, Creep, don't sound too excited. Then we fade into the story where we meet our main character, Robert. He's trying to get into the Shapeshifter Anonymous meeting, but the doorman isn't letting him through unless he knows the password.
Landis.
Sadly, that is, last week's password. Hey, good try though. Landis is actually a reference to John Landis, and he directed the iconic movie American Werewolf in London. But the doorman isn't letting him in that easy, even after he tells him that he brought donuts. Robert tells the guy that he's actually the Naperville Ripper, a serial killer that's been terrorizing the town for the past couple of months. And he thinks that this group is the only thing that can help him. Luckily for Robert, the other members hear his plea and they call off the doorman and let him in. First, we meet Irina Reed, and she is the president of the club. And the first thing she does is ask Robert for his name.
Oh, I thought this was anonymous.
Yeah, I did too. Apparently the founders of the group just thought Shapeshifters Anonymous sounded good. That's it. They didn't actually mean for it to be an anonymous group. Robert tells Irina that he believes he's a therianthrope, or just a shapeshifter, because 3 months ago he started to poop out very mysterious things. He was nervous because he was pooping out little white stones and pieces of fabric, so he took a stool sample to his doctor for examination. And he brings it so nice and neatly in a Tupperware container. I hope he doesn't plan on using that afterwards. It actually looks like he doesn't want to be anywhere near it. Why'd he set it so far away? Maybe this Santa wants a sample because he is staring into Robert's soul. When he finally gets back to see the doctor starts asking him some hard-hitting questions.
Have you been eating little stones or strips of fabric?
If he was, I don't think he'd be here, Doc. Speaking of Doc, you actually hear later on in the episode that they call him Dr. Talbot, which could be a reference to Larry Talbot, the original Wolfman. Robert tells the doctor that he only poops out these weird things about once or twice a month. But the doctor wants a closer look, so he has a deeper examination, if you know what I mean. And he does find some interesting stuff up there, like a coat button, a zipper, some change. Does that board say boner? It says boner! Why? Needless to say, the doctor is no help. Irina asks him if he remembers any of the Ripper murders, but sadly he doesn't. He just wakes up all bloody and covered in gross stuff. Irina really wants to pick his brain more about the situation, but it's time to start the meeting. And we get to meet all our new friends, but they're not the friendliest bunch, to say the least. And Robert actually lets it slip that he doesn't even really believe that he's a therianthrope, and he finds it kind of weird that he ended up in a support group for werewolves.
Is that what you turn into?
Well, someone has a kink. Turns out not everyone is a werewolf. That just happens to be the most popular therianthrope. Irina is actually a were-cheetah, which Robert does not believe. He's starting to think that everyone here is just a bit loony and he wants some real help. But Irina promises him he's in the right place. So she sits him down and she talks him through all the people that he murdered. They were all bad people. One was a mobster, the other was a sex offender, and one was a DA for child molesters.
So if you think about it, you actually made the world a slightly better place.
Ah, the old Dexter mindset. I like it. And we finally get to meet the rest of the people. First, we meet Scott Howard, who is a were-tortoise. Oh, that's gotta suck.
So then, like, when you change, what do?
I eat lettuce.
He's actually a reference to Teen Wolf. No, not the MTV TV show. The 1985 movie Teen Wolf. Michael J. Fox's character was named Scott Howard. Next, we meet Phyllis Allenby, and she's actually not a therianthrope, but she is a furry, so like, close enough, right? Next is Andy McDermott, and he's a wereboar, which is actually pretty cool. Andy's name is actually a reference to the main character in the movie American Werewolf in Paris, which is an actual movie that I had no idea existed. And it was actually distributed by Walt Disney Studios, and if I had known that, I would have put it in the Disney Halloween tier list. And for some reason, I sense that Andy has a thing for Irina.
God, you are so fucking hot, Irina.
My senses were right. And finally, we meet Ryan. Just Ryan. He doesn't talk too much. Or at all, and they don't even know if he's actually a therianthrope. But he does show up to every meeting, so like, okay. Robert is still unsure of what kind of therianthrope he is, but he does believe he is a werewolf, which they all laugh at him for, because it's just so popular and basic. Everyone believes they're a werewolf.
Never gonna catch a flick called An American Wereboar in London.
Or the Oinking.
Pretty obvious Easter eggs in that one. I don't think I have to explain those two. The American Werewolf in London and The Howling. Get with it, people. But they do have a way to find out what he is. They have a chest full of different herbs and symbols to see what animal he will turn into. Irina tries catnip at first, but it doesn't work.
It's a shame. You would have made a really cute kitty.
So next they try the popular Wolf's Bane. Whoa, he's a werewolf, that's for sure. But he wasn't born a werewolf, so he must have been cursed, which he was. One day while he was on his way home, he ran into his elderly neighbor, who was super upset at him for being way too loud. Which is ironic because her dog keeps yapping the whole time she scolds Robert.
Jesus.
You keep it down in their mouth.
And fun fact, the dog's name is Maleva, which happens to be the same name of the woman that put a curse on Larry in the original Wolfman movie. Robert chooses to just ignore the crazy lady and lock her out of his apartment, where she bangs on the door shouting, "I curse you, I curse you," which in retrospect, he probably should have taken a little more seriously. And we have a couple more references before we move on. A reporter on the TV is listing off a few victims of the Naperville Ripper, and of course they're all names of different characters in werewolf movies, starting with Waldemar Daninsky, who was a werewolf in 11 Spanish werewolf films, Tony Rivers from I Was a Teenage Werewolf, and Ginger Fitzgerald, the werewolf from the movie Ginger Snaps. Also, this one might be a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. Robert's apartment number is 138, and there is a D&D-like game called Mage Knights, and figure 138 is indeed a werewolf. Crazy coincidence, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's what's meant to happen, but I'm saying that's a crazy coincidence. Anyways, the next day, Robert wakes up covered in blood and discovers that he actually ate the kooky old lady and her dog. And from the wise words of Jojo Siwa, karma's a bitch. Robert asks Irina, the only other carnivore therianthrope, if she ever feels guilty for the people that she ate. But she's been a therianthrope for so long that she feels no remorse. And they tell Robert that they could actually reverse the spell as long as he goes back to the old lady and asks her to take it all away he ate her. Looks like he's stuck like this for the rest of his life. And I know what you're thinking. King, this was supposed to be a Christmas special. Where's the Christmas? Hold on, I'm getting there. God, calm down, so impatient. They decided to officially start the meeting by stating their creed. And it starts off pretty normal, that is until...
I promise to avoid Kris Kringle, the dreaded Santa Claus, and his many evil helpers.
Turns out Santa Claus is a therianthrope hunter. For some reason. Luckily, there is a book to tell us exactly why this is, and it's called The Book of Bob. Not as scary as I thought it would sound. The story goes that the Lord gave one of his disciples, a man named Bob, the power of lycanthropy so he can devour all evildoers. But Bob started to get a little too cocky about his accomplishments, which angered God. So God punished Bob by giving one of his biggest rivals, Kris Kringle, a suit of impenetrable red armor. God told Kris Kringle that he could kill every therianthrope, and he also granted him 9 reindeer to help him hunt them down. One day, Bob and Kris had an intense fight, which Bob came out victorious, which angered Kris Kringle so much that he turned to the devil for assistance. Satan forged Kris these claw-like swords that he calls Satan Claws, which over the years slowly morphed into Santa Claus. Kris also recruited an army of Santa lookalikes to help him rid the world of all therianthropes. So yeah, there's the Christmas part for you. As soon as Scott finishes the story of Bob, sirens start blaring throughout the meeting. It looks like Chris's army has found them. So the group fortify the meeting room and they prepare for carnage. About 100 Santa impersonators storm the building and we watch all the violence through really cool comic panels because the budget just wasn't there. We also learned in this scene that Santa started to give the kids of Therianthropes presents because he felt bad for leaving so many orphans lying around. Hey, at least he's kind of a nice guy. As the Santas try to break down the door to the meeting room, we discover that the Santas found their hideout because one of them followed Robert all the way there. The group armed themselves with pistols and they warn Robert to make sure he shoots the Santas in the face because their red suits are actually Kevlar vests. God, this episode's insane. It's so crazy. And before the Santas break down the door, Robert decides to finally shoot his shot with Irina.
Hey, if we make it out of this alive, would you want to go out with me?
I'd like that.
Yeah, she wants to see that dog in you. I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. Side note, as the Santas break down the door, they actually only say the ho part of heave ho. That just made me giggle, so I had to mention it. Finally, after a whole 5 minutes of trying, they break the doors down and it is just a bloodbath. Like the Santas barely get in the door before they're taken out. One of them does actually slip through though, and it is the same one that has been following Robert the whole time. Robert just stands frozen in shock as the Santa yells at him. The Santa then swings his chain, hitting... Never mind, Irina saved him. After killing most of the Santas, they actually retreat, and they defeat the army of Santas for good.
It isn't over.
He can talk! Ryan points to the monitors that shows the group that Kris Kringle has arrived. But they wasted all their ammo on the small Santas, so they're gonna have to grab weapons from the Santa pile and hope they survive. And the odds do not look good for them. Finally, Ryan decides to stop sitting on the sidelines and actually help. He gives them all a metamorphosis potion, so they can transform into their Therianthrope form, but still keep their human brain. Irina even gives one to Phyllis, even though she is just a furry.
You're one of us.
Aw, that's very sweet. They all drink it and we watch them as they change. Some painfully, some gracefully. YouTube, she's in a fursuit. She is a cheetah. She is not actually naked. Please don't take my video down. She is actually a cheetah. That was a cheetah. That was an animal. And when Phyllis drinks it, she actually turns into nothing, you idiot. And when Robert drinks it, we don't actually get a really cool transformation. The camera actually circles the group and every time it passes around a person, he just kind of changes a little more into a werewolf. Kind of disappointed in the transformation. I thought it'd be something cool. I thought they were saving the budget for that scene. I mean, it would have been cool if we saw something crazy like Scott's. The group line up and they hold off another wave of Santa impersonators. Phyllis even picks up a scythe and starts chopping them down like a badass. And you can't have a cool fight scene without having the classic Creepshow stinger. God, I love how cheesy that is. But now that they've defeated the army, it's time for the big man. Kris Kringle steps in and he's actually horrifying. What the hell? This honestly looks a lot better than I thought it would. Man, looks like a Christmas Power Ranger. It's awesome. Santa lists off all the people that are on his kill list, which is pretty much everyone. And even he can't resist the looks of the were-cheetah.
Wanna sit on Santa's lap, little girl?
And surprisingly, when he gets to Phyllis, he has no idea who she is. Wonder why. But he also didn't list Ryan. But Ryan seems to know Santa. And Santa does know him.
I know that voice.
It is then revealed that Ryan is actually Bob, the rival to Santa. He morphs off screen. Such a bummer, man. But that's okay because the giant werewolf puppet is actually so insanely cool. Santa gets incredibly happy that he gets to finally fight his lifelong rival and finally defeat and kill him for good. And he decides to get into Bob's mind by talking shit. A lot of shit. And I mean a lot of shit.
It's gonna be a Merry fucking Christmas. I should have killed you bastards in this day, son of a bitch.
God, does this dude ever shut up? Oh, thanks, Phyllis. Wait, Phyllis killed Santa?
Why didn't you do that 5,000 years ago?
Right, that's like insanely easy. Bob congratulates the group by giving them full control of their powers. Sadly, Bob doesn't have the power to change Phyllis into a hippo, which she believes she is. But he can change her into a werewolf, but she turns that down.
These guys already offered me that. No, I don't want to be no turtle or no cheetah or no dumbass pig.
Bob does have a theory that maybe there's still some magic left in Santa's dead body. So he tells Phyllis to sit in Santa's lap and make a Christmas wish. So she sits down and she doesn't turn into a hippo. So I guess Santa's magic really did run. Is that Lil Yachty?
Gonna take you home, make love to you all night, girl.
I guess she got her wish. A strange wish, but okay. And Irina and Robert decide to head off to her house for obvious reasons. Then we fade out into the comic where we do see the monkey paw ad from Night of the Paw for the last Easter egg of the video, and we zoom into the creep telling us happy horror days. And that's the end of the episode. By far the most insane thing I have ever talked about on my channel, beats out Thunderpants beats out that crazy Nightmare Room episode I talked about, and that had Sting in it. I absolutely love this special. I find it super funny and honestly really, really entertaining. It's 45 minutes, but those 45 minutes just fly by because you're laughing and you're just having a good time. And after rewatching it multiple times, I started to notice small things that I didn't notice before, like the mini werewolf references, or the fact that you can tell which person's gonna transform into what before they actually do it. For example, Irina is wearing a cheetah print shirt and she is a were-cheetah. Scott is wearing a turtleneck and he turns into that really cool turtle. Andy is a very sloppy eater. He has candy all over his face and all around his chair, and he is a wereboar or a pig. And both of the werewolves have beards. Robert's beard is more like stubble because he's new to the werewolf thing and he probably keeps shaving it off. But Bob, he knows he's gonna keep growing that hair, so he just keeps a full beard, showing that he has more experience in the werewolf. Or even all the Santas that just show up around Robert when he's walking around out and about. It's great foreshadowing. That being said, I do wish this episode had more action in it. For example, the first time the Santas invade, it cops out to give us comic panels, which is something Creepshow loves to do when they're tight on budget, and I understand that. But even when Kris Kringle finally enters the room, we don't even see him fight. He kills one of his own Santa soldiers, knocks Scott into a wall, and then doesn't even hit Bob. And then Phyllis slices his head off. It's just kind of lame. He's just set up to be this all-powerful, incredible guy, and we barely see him do anything. But the Santa himself looks incredible. He's both badass and very creepy, and I want those Satan claws in real life so I can play Fruit Ninja in real life. The other Therianthropes look incredible as well, especially Scott. They made that turtle suit look so cool. He looks like an actual turtle. It's awesome. I also think Bob looks like Fluffy from the first Creepshow movie. They look very similar, maybe not siblings, but they could be cousins. I wonder if there's already a theory out there about them being related. And there is a moment after they all transform for the first time where you can tell that it's obviously dubbed over. And these guys are not the best voice actors in the world.
What? There's still some frosting inside!
Like, it's pretty bad. But other than that, the acting in the episode is very good. The dialogue is great. Most of the time, it just feels like natural talking around a group of friends. They even take multiple jabs at each other. But I think that's what makes this episode work. It's just the right amount of insanity and funny and cool. I mean, they wrote boner in the doctor's office. Come on. Let me know what you think about the Creepshow special in the comments below. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content, videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, and a Discord server, and your name right here on screen. Like the video if you like the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.